what their body language is telling us. So like if they are scared, like they might.
I think that was Tuesday.
Was that Tuesday?
Yep. Joint centration.
Oh, you looked at that.
I know, we gotta separate the two. We don't have to, but we are.
The video was too much.
Do you have notes, Madeline?
Yeah.
Would you like to rifle them off for us?
The DNS concept, joint centration,
Yep.
and then
I'll pause you there. Which joint centration?
Stabilizing muscles, deep joints and centration.
Yep, the joint is in its centered position where the stabilizing muscles have the best leverage to stabilize and it has the most degree of range of motion and mobility. So that's joint centration. What was next?
if they're able to do that well, and if they have good joint centration, then you can load them. If not, then you have to help them be able to manage themselves in gravity.
Yep, so we looked at a model of like basic movements. What do we do on an everyday, right? We stand, we sit, squat, push, pull, hinge, blah, blah, blah. If they can handle gravity, so we talked about gravity a lot, then great, we can progress them into more of like performing movements, right? We can start loading, we can do dynamic movements and start asking coordination of different joints at different timing. If they can't handle gravity, then we go into more of development movement, which is more of our baby movements and transitions and positions, because they can't handle gravity as an adult, so we have to reteach them how to handle gravity. That occurs when we are itty bitty babies, and then developing through like 18 months-ish. Yep, what else? Was that?
Breathing wave.
Breathing wave, yep, that's right. So with movement, first thing we do is breathe, then movement's built on top of it, just like in life. So if they can't breathe, then they can't breathe against gravity, same thing. We have to put in position where they can start to learn how to breathe correctly, and then add movement on top of correct breath. Breathing wave is one teaching style of teaching the breath, basically, but the coordination and the sequence of the breath. Anything more after that?
Mobility, this is kind of out of order. Mobility and stability, and like the differences. This is back to joint centration, like how it pulls.
Oh yes,
And, like,
that's more.
stabilizes your start mobilizing or something up.
Yeah, like compensations. Yeah, so what happens with stabilizing muscles versus moving muscles, we start getting compensations to make up for movement dysfunction. And whenever we have compensations, that's where we're going to have either stability issues, mobility issues, pain, etc., etc. I think that's where we left off, basically. Yes, please.
I think it's important to know that all of this is amazing and we're doing it for the bones because the bones is the structure of the anatomy. So how I like to explain this to people is like if you ever go into a home built in like the 1900s, typically people will say, oh, this has really great bones. So we're looking at the bones as the structure, and then the joints and muscles is going to pull the bones into different alignments.
Yep.
And then also talking about breath, I don't know if people know the size of the lung here, so I help my clients find their lung. I ask them to find their collarbone and then their lowest rib so they can understand that that is the size of your lung instead of where is the lung. So really bring them back into their bodies and into their organs.
Yeah, good segue into where we're going to go into. So we talked more of the structural anatomy. Now we're going to go a little bit more into the connective anatomy, and deeper dive into structural anatomy and connective anatomy will be knowing specific structures, like knowing the anatomy of the lungs and the rib cage and the brain and all the interesting things that we don't necessarily get exposed to as trainers. But where we're going to pick up is with the connective tissue, the connective anatomy. So what structures do we know that contribute to, say, the connective anatomy? I'm going to get the obvious out of the way. Muscles. Yup. Did you say joints? That's a whole lot of stuff in a joint. That's cool. Connective tissue, though. You said ligaments, I'll take it. Yeah. Somebody said something else? Cool. Oh. At least fascia. So the push on Gabriana's joints. Technically, a joint is like a joint capsule. The cartilage, the ligaments, the tendons. You can have like the labrum. Looking at those types of things. So all of it is just a generalized term said the joint. Not to push back.
What this is maybe a stretch, potentially a skin connected.
Darn right. What else are we missing? Yeah, okay. I think too. Each of these we can go, so this is an inch deep in connective tissue world, right? We can go a mile deep as well. And we'll go there in time, but at least to just open the thinking, how can we go deeper on just the general connectivity of muscle? Yep. So we've got fiber type. Skeletal versus cardiac versus smooth, right? So we'll say smooth, cardiac, skeletal. Ligament, tendons, those types of things, we'll go more like mechanoreceptor world in a lot of ways. Cartilage, that's where we're gonna go, and fascia, that's where we're gonna go more of like elastin and collagen and those types of sub-connective tissues in some ways. They all have properties, right? So if we look at it, don't look at it in the sense of like these are separate tissue types. They're all just different blending of different concentrations of different type of makeup. What I mean basically is if we take a ligament, right? So it's bone, bone. What is bone highly concentrated in as makeup? Okay. What is ligament highly concentrated in as makeup? Collagen. So they're not like separate in the sense of being separate. It's more of like bone has collagen threaded through. It's more of like this blending. We'll say this is like bone and then of like this blend. So everything connects through. It's just different types of concentration. So if we look at like a cartilage, it's going to have a different type of concentration of something than a tendon, but these things will blend and just trade off what they are mostly made of. So think of it in that sense. So it's a road that continues through, even if there are stop signs, even if there are red lights, even if there are bridges, even if it's gravel, even if it's paved, it's still continuous. It's just what it's made of is slightly different purposes. Cool. Okay. Questions on connective? All right. So what we're going to zoom in on is more of the yeah. Yep. So organ in the sense that has a strong function. In the sense of like connective tissue, it still is just a blending of concentration. Its function is like a systemic function versus like a muscle is just like force transference. So it doesn't necessarily have a systemic function in that sense of it, but the skin is very, very dynamic. Connective tissue of like ligament and tendons and muscles, they're very simple. Like they're just action oriented versus like adaptive. That makes sense. But if we look at like if this is a layer of skin, obviously we've got multiple layers to it. We've got this fascia threaded through. That same fascia is threaded through muscle, just at a higher concentration with blending of muscle tissue through. There's not really muscle tissue in the skin. There's not muscle tissue through that connectivity of it. But if you want to manipulate this organ underneath, if you manipulate the skin, you'll change the orientation of underneath this as well.
I think I understand that.
Yep, purely just connectivity of it. But you're absolutely right. It has a dynamic function it is very adaptive and it can change. It's got multiple aspects of what it does and how it does it.
Yeah.
Other questions on connective tissue? Okay. Obviously, you know I love this world. It's becoming pretty trendy in our fields. What do we know about it?
It connects everything to everything.
Connects everything to everything. Damn right it does. What else?
It's me. That's what I heard.
Okay. Yeah. In one wants a sense of it.
It's adaptable.
Very adaptable.
Like ceramic.
Yep. All ways of explaining this like ambiguous tissue for sure. So it's extremely dynamic. It connects everything to everything. So if we look at it in the sense of like the connectivity of the body, we're looking at this like postural lens of things, which is really, really cool, of how if we change the shoulder anatomy, my right shoulder really likes to stay open because there is connectivity through the rest of the body. If this stays here, it's going to influence the way the rest of the body is orientated. So from a biomechanical standpoint, there's a lot of cool stuff which we'll get into in the future, but it connects. So that's really cool from a mechanical standpoint, but also it's the bridge to, we'll say up here, right? It's the bridge from the nervous system. So this is where it transcends physical. Like when it starts connecting to the nervous system, that's where it no longer becomes physical. It makes the non-physical physical. It's that bridge. That, what you mean?
Yeah. So, I was wondering if we were to cut open a body,
Oh yeah. Yeah. If you search deep frontline in Google, you'll see a cavernous cutout of basically the tongue through the esophagus and the diaphragm, down through the psoas and the adductors, through the interosseous base of the tibia and fibia, and then under into the plantar. Plantar is like one continuous thread.
So there's a backline as well.
Yep, there's a back line, a front line, there's a spiral line, lateral line, really, really cool. But to our point, and this is where we steer more into our Soft Skill Tuesdays, the fascia bridges the non-physical to the physical. So we've talked emotion. This is where emotion gets transferred and translated into physical posture, right? Like stress, we can see stress in posture. We can see depression in posture. We can see excitement and happiness in posture. Fascia is the thing that is transferring it. And I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but what we have is essentially, if this is the CNS, right? This is taking in information from every system, including our amygdala and our thoughts and all of these non-physical perceptions. It's sending out a signal to the entire body to express that perceived state. The fascia takes that expression and transfers it into muscle as tone, as tension, as change in breathing pattern. It'll change heart rate, like it changes digestion. Like the fascia is the thing that is bridging the nervous system through to the actual like physical action. Yes.
So I have a question here. So Ben and I saw a client today,
Yeah. No hard blocks in the sense of if we look at it as the human being behind the body is removed.
And like one thing to kind of add on top of that too, like I think you probably agree with this. The reason that Gabriana mentions that, and based off the way he feels, is he was a high-level collegiate athlete, and he just fought through pain for so long. So he's disassociated himself with the pain as a way to like
Survive.
get through it, right? And so
Yeah.
he just like turn off those signals, and then now he just like doesn't
Yeah.
have like feeling, awareness, ability to stretch any of that.
Yeah, because if we...
The only thing he does feel is pain.
I'll trail off of him, go broad, and then I'll come back to him. So I know it was a thing on social media a while ago of how if you look at ranges of motion when someone is under anesthesia, they have perfect range of motion even if they have pain and issues, right? And then the second that the lights are turned back on, the range of motion is limited again, which tells us it is purely just a reflection of the state of the nervous system, the range of motion and stuff. And you can go deeper. A lot of, and Gabriana might be helpful here, but a lot of, like, I'll say energy testing of people. A strong test is actually through manual muscle testing, right? I don't know if that's something any of you have been exposed to. I learned it purely in like a mechanical sense of school, right? If I can do this and I can resist you, I've got a strong anterior deltoid, right? But you can also look at it in the sense of like state of the nervous system. Yeah. So tying it back to that guy, because the fascia is connecting everything everywhere, it will take the thoughts and the emotions and put it into physical representation into the body. So if for him, he was trying to disassociate pain from, I don't know, I'm making this up, but from his legs, let's say, right? I don't know. The strategy would just be like, okay, if I don't feel, if I disconnect the emotional piece
From the top of the pelvis to be specific.
down,
Yeah.
I'll survive, right? Versus just having him spend time about like feeling the connectivity of the body through and through, feeling breath go into these places. It's like the life energy connected through the physical aspect of things. The fascia is that bridge of emotion to physical, physical to non-physical, because mechanoreceptors are highly saturated, we'll get to it another day, in fascia. We talked about it in the past, but the receptors that are picking up mechanical input, right? There's no emotion to it. It is just mechanical input, stand on vibration. It sends a vibration signal mechanically to the nervous system. Is it high vibration and stressful? Is it low vibration and parasympathetic? It'll then tell the tissue how to respond based on what the input is, inputs, outputs. We see that from a mechanical standpoint. So if the input is high stress from a mechanical standpoint, the output will reflect it. If the input is high stress or a very specific type of strategy, the body will just listen. And that's where you can get these like diseases and injuries, and they're basically like fabricated in the mind.
Manifesting.
Yep. They're very real because the mind tells the nervous system to make it real in the physical. And that can be systemic from an organ standpoint. It can be from a mechanical standpoint, an output standpoint. And that's where it gets very nuanced and layered of just the unique experience of that individual and also their heritage and their genetics, right? Like things can be passed on. Epigenetics is very, very real. But fascia is seemingly, because all of our anatomical understanding is all theory. Basically everything about human aspect is theory. But that is the idea. I know that was a fire hose. Questions, thoughts? Does it all make sense at least? Okay. So if we're watching someone move and they can't do what we're asking them repeatedly, it's not that you're a bad coach. It means that their nervous system is not in a position to feel safe or stable or mobile to do what you're asking them. Change the position, because we shouldn't really need to do a ton of cueing. We just need to put them in a place where their nervous system understands what the task is and can figure out a way to do it. Moving on. So I have a pretty, I'd call it beefy, fascial, I don't know, course?
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call it. But it breaks down the details of what fascia is, how it functions. It's not perfect, it's not even finished, but I can send it to you as well. It's a bit of a fire hose for sure. But, so moving on from fascia, at least for the time being. So if we now understand the output of the muscle is just a reflection of the nervous system transmitted through fascia, the state of muscle action is just going to be that. It's going to be what the nervous system is telling it to do, right? So if it's telling it to turn on, if it's in the position to turn on, it'll be on until it's told to turn off. If it's a position of being off, it'll stay off until it's in a position of being on. So, what's his name? I like giving credit where credit is due. I can see Carl Lewin. He said muscles are stupid units, right? So they're not reactive themselves, they're just following direction, okay? So muscles are stupid units. Even though you don't know a ton fascia-wise, still think in terms of fascia, not just muscles right now. So think of it all as how is it connecting with itself. So locks long versus locks shorts. I know I've exposed some of you to this, but does anybody know what they are? Yes, sir.
I think locked short is usually the one we kind of think of with like tightness, where like take someone's hips. Anthony is a great example. Like you lack mobility and you're tight. That's usually what someone would kind of experience there. So it's a short position. That's when things feel stuck, gluey. Yeah, don't want to go anywhere. Mobility's tough. Locked and long, I'm going to need a little bit of help. I'll give it my best go. I think kind of more of like posturally. I'm thinking of like anterior tilt with like hamstrings where like they're just in a long position all the time. They might feel tight, but they are tight in a long position versus a short position.
If it goes longer, where can it go? It's already long.
Yeah, it just snaps.
So therefore it locks down that long position.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's concentric orientation versus eccentric orientation. They come with their respective qualities, right? So just because something is experienced as tight or symptomatically as tight doesn't mean it's just going to be short. You can have a neurologically locked, tight, long hamstring, and it'll stay tight until the nervous system feels that the pelvis is in a stable position to then let go of the demanded stability of the hamstring to lock the pelvis down, right? But lock long and short. If the muscle is super long, how much leverage is it going to have? It's going to have poor leverage. Does that make sense? Leverage. Okay. So poor mechanical lev. If it's locked short, how is the leverage going to be? It's still going to be really poor, actually.
Would it be better, but just like no range of motion? Or
Kind
like
of.
only a little better? Maybe?
It'll be pseudo strong, but it's more at risk of like tearing strong than actually strong. Yeah. Exactly. Like if we remember there's a model for it, but sliding filament theory, like, right? Like the sarcomeres, all that jazz. Is it what it's called? Yeah. But basically, if muscles are like these bridges, right? Myosin and actin, and they're here, and then the further they are from each other, the harder the pull, and then the closer they are, they're too close, they can't pull, right? So they want to be in that sweet spot of leverage. So that's usually 90 degrees from the perpendicular to the load or something like that. But just think in terms of leverage, right? No leverage, pseudo leverage. So the qualities of each, if we have something that is stuck in a concentric state, what is the qualities of it, right? It's going to be in contraction, it's going to be a little bit more palpable, it's going to appear bigger. There's going to be tons of locked blood flow in there, tons of overactive nerve in there. What else? What am I not thinking of?
Would the muscle be like more dry in that instance?
It would.
Because there's not like anything going in, going out, just like stuff. So just like
Yeah.
yeah, that's where like the hydration of like the lock short can be obviously helpful and like kind of push things through.
Yeah, both will be dehydrated. When we take fascia, think of fascia as like a sponge. So if you have a sponge, and if you squeeze it within the water, what happens next? It floods with tons of water. Think of them as sponges needing to be squeezed so that water can flood in and create hydration for it. So you'll get this like dryness, and over time it'll even calcify. But anyway, so the locked long qualities, you'll just think like anything tension. Too much tension, you might get pinching, you'll just get these different qualities. Locked long, what are some qualities we might see? Instability, yep, definitely.
Inability to like activate the muscle.
Absolutely no leverage, so they won't even be able to find it. Yep. Usually tingling and trigger points. If they have tons of trigger points, it's because I think of it in the sense that it's trying to lock. So it creates these fascial balls where it just holds and it doesn't let go. Just as if we look at the locked hamstring, it's looking for something to be fixed so that it can let go. Trigger points are just locking the tissue down because it doesn't have the leverage to actually hold it together. So if somebody's constantly complaining of like a trigger point or a knot or a ball, it is overly eccentric orientated tissue. Okay? Questions on lock long, lock short?
Is it always like can it be both the trigger point? Or can that be a short?
A little above my pay grade. Probably in general, I've noticed it's more in locked long muscle. Yeah.
That's what I was
For
saying
tissue.
with Green. Where like you said that her shoulder was stuck long.
Yes,
and
yes, exactly.
She was having pain there.
Exactly. So when we're asking our clients like their movement quality and their physical qualities, these are the things, these are the words that they choose. So if you can find the pattern of the words that they're choosing, you'll start to understand like, oh, is it locked long? Is it locked short? Posturally, what's that telling me? It's going to show up as weak. I should load this. I shouldn't load this. It starts giving you a direction to go. Okay.
Would lock short, would basically the whole thing be kind of looked at as a trigger point? Or more like the insertion points being kind of a place to go at there?
It depends on the demands of the tissue, where the trigger point will show up. So if they have a point of attempted leveraging, it'll show up at that demand point. Yeah. Okay. So far, still with me. All right, I know this is a little bit dry, but this gets to move in very, very quickly. So when we start seeing posture, you don't necessarily need to know a ton of the deep anatomy. Just find what's locked long and what's locked short. You can visually see it. You can see the asymmetries, right? So you don't need to know what the problem is. You don't even necessarily need to know what the dysfunction is. If something is, let's say, locked long, locked short, locked long, locked short, you just start seeing this pattern. And if you can see the pattern, you can assume this movement's going to suck. You're going to seemingly be really good at this. You're going to feel strong at this. This is going to suck. You're not going to be able to do these things. Your assessment really doesn't go beyond just looking at it, right? So You're gonna need to just practice looking at it, understanding what it feels like. And this is where, don't forget, mechanically we sit in that lens a lot, but look at it in the lens of like nervous system as well. If they're locked in their traps, is it a mechanical standpoint that they're in this all day? Okay, this will reinforce it, but why aren't they sitting here? Is it because they feel like the weight of their work is on their shoulders, so they're holding it upright? Because someone who loves their job and is very enthusiastic about it usually tends to be a little bit more open and more upright without trying. So it's both what's the mechanical input, what's the neurological and beyond input. Consider it through both lenses. Okay. So if we have someone who is posturally showing, let's say, upper cross syndrome, right? Common patterns. Where does our brain go? Upper crossed. Do we know lower cross better? Tight upper back.
No.
Locked long, locked short. Give me those.
Long, short, the
Okay, so big sit chest.
anterior shoulder.
Anterior shoulder. What's long?
Lats.
How long?
Sure.
I'm remembering this with you too. I don't look at this. I haven't looked at this in years.
So short. No, longer. Short.
Either one. I just want to make sure we cover them all. You
Lats
can
would be
literally
short.
Google it and tell me. It's fine.
Long would be
It's not my point. Long would be
Like it's always just get back muscle and just read it.
over the
subcostals.
cervical. Yep. Simple flexors. Up. Low trap.
Rhomboid.
Trap 3. The point is not memorizing this. I literally barely remember any of this. The point is, when we look at this, where would you start coaching? Like, I'm gonna release these, and I'm gonna start firing these, right? But everything connects to everything. We don't want to get myopic in just, oh, they fall into this pattern. This is the pattern. Find their pattern. Because their flavor of life and experience is going to create a nuance around it, right? Do they have this? What is their breathing pattern? Some might find this breathing pattern. Some might just stay here and then just overly belly breathe. Their pelvis might be anterior tilted, might be posterior tilted. Might, wherever we need to look at the entire, create their pattern. So if we create their pattern and don't fall into looking for upper cross and lower cross and open scissor pattern, and there's the PRI, like there's tons of different patterns and they're very, very helpful, but also look for their nuance. So when you're assessing them and their movements, list out everything you see, then create their pattern. Okay, so in this last view, create everybody's pattern with a partner. Just list out what's locked long, what's locked short. Just create the list, and then next week we'll pick up on, based on what you're seeing, movement-wise, what are they going to be able to do well versus not do well? Because if someone is here, they're going to be pretty good squat-wise. If someone's here, they're going to be pretty limited squat. Both are dysfunctional squats. One's just going to have a better range of motion than the other. Okay, let's dive in. So you can do standing evaluation. You can squat them, walk them, just watch them be. Yeah?